Hi, darling. Today I'm going to make a quick video and I'm timing myself. I just started timing myself, so I really mean a quick video. And I wanted to make an honest review of my last video, which was a video reviewing the changes that I've experienced in myself after 20 years of meditation and personal practice. Now, as I was editing that video and as I've been sitting with it for a while, I have some reflections. The video was honest. I totally stand by the honesty in the video, and in a lot of ways it was really thorough, and I hope that it was supportive and helpful. Otherwise I wouldn't have put it out. But the one thing that I really felt like the video was missing, and this seems to be a bit of a theme with me, with some of the things that I put out, and honestly, some of the ways that I show up in the world. It felt like it was missing a little bit of personal story. I felt that as I was describing the changes and the shifts and the transformations, I sort of fell back into meditation teacher role. A lot of what I talked about felt like general benefits that one might experience after many years of dedicated practice. So again, true, and it was true for me, but sometimes I feel like in what I put out into the world, I hold back a little bit. I hold back on the personal level, or how personal I get with the stories and the examples. And part of that is for good reason. Part of that is because I'm an incredibly private person and there is a lot of my private life that I may not ever share. But I also know that when I'm on the other side and when I'm listening to somebody speak, it's the personal stories that really help it land and really help a lot of it make sense or really touch something in us that makes it come alive. And so this is me showing up, wanting to get better at making things a little bit more personal. The other thing is, which is so silly, is I think there's a little bit of fear of taking up space. I am really self-conscious that I need to be more concise, and I was like this when I was publishing written blog posts, whether through writing or through speaking. I think I'm a bit self-conscious because I think I tend to ramble or explain things or be redundant, and so there's this sense of holding back and not wanting to, not wanting my videos to be too long, not wanting to elaborate too much. But in this case, I think it's worth elaborating. And the other thing is, this is my YouTube channel. If I can't take up space or show up fully here, where can I, right? You, wherever you are, you have decided to enter into this video, enter into this space with me. Maybe I could have a little bit more trust you on the other side, that you choose to be here and that you want to listen. So here we go. So in the last video, I kind of put the changes in two major broad categories just to simplify things. And if you haven't watched it yet, you can go back and you can watch it after this too. But I talked about the overall theme of disarmament. Another way to put this could be reactivity or non-acceptance or resistance. And then the second one was basically a sense of presence and appreciation. But I'm going to talk a little bit about disarmament. I mean, the first thing to talk about is, okay, how was I really before? How was I 20 years ago before I started a meditation practice or before I really started this path of doing inner work? And I mean, the thing is, it's really hard to talk about because even if I hadn't undertaken any sort of spiritual path, in 20 years we change, we all change, right? But what I'm really interested in here is talking about what changes I can attribute to the practice, which can be a little bit tricky maybe to discern, but because I have a good sense of my own tendencies and how some of the practices and techniques have worked with these tendencies, I think I have a sense of which ones have been maybe just part of natural growth and maturity and development, and which ones I could see really have been impacted by the practices of embodied awareness, of self-compassion, and basically the practices that meditation has brought into my life. If you want to know a little bit more about the kind of meditation I practice, I touched on it in the last video and a lot more in some of my other videos. So let me share a little bit about what I think I was like as far as my personality and my tendencies 20 years ago. My whole life I've been someone who is quite anxious, quite a perfectionist, honestly quite obsessed with how I'm being perceived by others. And I know I'm not alone in this, but it's still kind of embarrassing, or it feels really vulnerable to say out loud that I really cared what other people thought of me. I was really strongly identified with this identity of being this good girl, being the good one, the nice one, the one that does things right, the one that is the overachiever, the one that just has things figured out. And I won't spend much time analyzing, but it probably comes from stress in childhood that made me want to create order and control where there was chaos or uncertainty or maybe some instability. And so what this really means is that I had really, really high standards for myself. And in a lot of ways that served me in my life. I've achieved a lot of things. I've had some really incredible experiences that I have planned and designed and created for myself because of that mechanism in me. But of course, the other side of holding myself to such a high standard was being quite harsh with myself, being quite critical. And so you can imagine as I moved through life, I mean, I can feel it in my body as I talk, there's a rigidity, there's a sense of control, there's a sense of forcing things, there's a sense of strong expectation. What I expected of myself, what I expected of life, and honestly, I would project that onto others. So what I expected of others, how that would show up in my life is, in a lot of ways, I would be very controlling. I would want to plan everything. I'd be so anxious because I'd be constantly thinking about every possible undesirable outcome and trying to control and mitigate all of those. It's exhausting. It was exhausting. So whether it was events in my life, interactions with others, moving through milestones in my life, there would be a lot of self-judgment. There would be judgment of others. There would be a lot of expectation put on myself. There'd be sometimes regret when things didn't go the way that I had planned. To be honest though, when I look back at the history of my life, I did get a lot of the things that I wanted. If I'm honest, and again, this feels cringy to say, but I did get a lot of the things that I wanted. A lot of times things did go my way, which in a way probably reinforced this idea that I can control things and I should control things, because when I do, you know, things work out and I have a sense of control and I can put order to things, and that feels soothing and that feels like I can avoid difficulty or avoid stress. But then when things inevitably wouldn't go my way and I didn't get everything that I wanted, then yeah, it would cause me a lot of stress, a lot of anguish, and a lot of difficulty, honestly. Okay, so cut to 20 years later, 20 years of practice, a practice that develops awareness, that helps to notice that reactivity, notice those expectations, notice that sense of needing to control everything, a practice that helps us let go, a practice that helps us grow in wisdom, that actually control is an illusion and that getting the thing doesn't lead to lasting happiness, and that actually that gripping on so tight causes a lot of difficulty and a lot of unnecessary stress. A practice that helps to meet ourselves and accept ourselves just as we are. A practice that helped me really grow in compassion. So 20 years later, how am I different now? The truth is, I'm not that different. And this is the thing, especially when you take the seat of meditation teacher or a well-being leader, there is this sense that you are supposed to be different. Or again, if people know that you've been meditating for so long, that you are supposed to be some way. Maybe you're supposed to carry yourself a certain way. It's as if our personality is supposed to change and maybe be more serene or more muted or more bland or just more steady. And in my experience, and from what I have seen from other peers who have been dedicated practitioners for a very, very long time, your personality doesn't really change. There's also a really great book by Jack Kornfield that I'm rereading right now called After the Ecstasy, The Laundry. And it kind of speaks about later stages in our spiritual path. Great, great book. And he says the same thing in the book. He says our personalities don't really change, our tendencies don't really change. What really changes on the path after a lot of practice is our ability to really see that, to really notice and really sharply recognize our personality quirks, our tendencies, our conditioning, our thought patterns, and all the old tapes that always play again and again, and really step back from it, have a little bit of space, be able to accept that that is just the way that it is. And in a way, what you're doing with that spaciousness is you're disentangling. And again, I'm going to use the pronoun I, so I keep things more personal in this video. But here's the thing, I do want to keep things personal, but part of the shift that happens is actually you begin to see your personality in a less personal way, if that makes sense. So because there's a spaciousness, you're able to sort of listen to the tape that is playing in your head. I am able to listen to the tape that's playing in my head, which is my old conditioning, which is my old thought patterns, and be less identified with it. So yes, that is moving through me and that is a part of me. Yes, this is what the world is like, but instead of fighting it, instead of arming myself and being at war with it, there's a sense of seeing it for what it is, seeing that I probably don't have much control over it, but I can accept it and I can have compassion for myself when that conditioning causes me noisiness, causes me stress, causes me sadness, causes me these difficult emotions. And of course, it's through that spacious awareness and that compassion that I'm able to let go a little bit. So it's that paradox of there's no change, but accepting that there's no change, that is the greatest transformation of all. That is the greatest freedom of all. Let's use an example of an interaction with friends, and sometimes a lot of these patterns can come up in these interactions. So I've always really loved hosting, I love planning, I love bringing friends together, but I also am controlling. And when I do bring friends together, and when I do create a plan, or if I do invite people to my home, I have an idea of how it's all supposed to flow. And even though I try not to, it is my personality. It is, that is part of me. I create in my mind, I should say my mind creates expectations for how everything should unfold. Again, in a lot of ways, this is a beautiful quality because it means I really care, I really think about how I want the evening to feel, how I want my friends to feel, and I really put a lot of love into bringing people together and having sweet moments together. But of course, this can also lead to having expectations that are too rigid, and I can easily get disappointed if people cancel last minute, if people show up late. I can easily get disappointed in myself, and I often do. In the moment, there's a lot of putting pressure on myself for everyone to be attended to, making sure everyone has what they need, making sure no one feels left out. And so this can really be a lot of stress. I can feel a lot of tension in my body when I'm supposed to be enjoying a little party or something that I've planned for my friends. I can sometimes have a lot of regrets and things that I should have done and things that I wish I had said and things that I had wished had gone differently. So what's it like now when I host, when I plan, when I interact with people? Guess what? The same thing plays out. The difference is, say it's in the moments after or the day after, and I'm feeling, maybe there's some regret or maybe there's some replaying things in my head. Here's the difference. Whereas before I may have berated myself for hours or even days in that regret and wishing and that resistance and again, this arming myself, now the same thing happens. All of those patterns play out. But the magic is I catch myself earlier. So in the moment, all of those things are coming up, but I'm able to notice that they're coming up, and I'm able to notice the tension in my body, and I'm able to focus instead of what's not going my way, instead of being worried about all the things that I actually cannot control. I remember this, and I am able to physically soften my shoulders, physically soften my body, and physically open up to the experience of the moment. So I'm really able to, and sometimes it actually feels like rooting myself through planting my feet on the ground, and maybe even this slight rolling the shoulders back and just being open and receptive to the energy in the room. But all of a sudden I'm fully there. And again, this isn't perfect. There's this swinging back and forth and getting caught up in something, but more and more I'm able to bring myself back to a place of presence and appreciation and really enjoying the company and the interactions and the connection with friends. And then after the event, those little whispers of regret come in. Instead of spinning in that for, again, hours or days, I catch myself. I can hear the voices, and I can pause and listen to them and recognize them as just noises, just voices in the head, just thoughts that the mind is spinning up, not me. Again, that's helpful to take the personal out of it, make it a little bit less personal so that it's easier to disentangle or to not identify with it so much. And accepting that this is the mind that I have, this is the mind body that I have in this life, this is the way that I am, this is my personality, and parts of it are difficult and parts of it are really beautiful. So that acceptance is incredibly soothing. That acceptance is a balm, honestly. In the last video, I mentioned this word momentum, and there is this momentum of practice. There's like an inner voice that prompts you to do a U-turn, kind of be like, okay, what's going on right now when all of those, the regret, the wishing, the wanting, the regret, the judgment, the self-criticism, that sense of things not having met expectations, noticing that all of that is happening and asking myself, what do I need? Okay, I need to now relax and meet myself with compassion. I need to, again, soften and accept instead of resist. And so, yes, there's the momentum of practice. And also, I'll say the very fact of having a regular practice, having the habit of carving this time out for quiet contemplation, or in my case, meditation, that means that you already have built into your day, built into your life, this time and space to contemplate so that you can become, rather than being on autopilot and letting all of those patterns just be constantly playing out and getting completely caught up in them, you have this built-in time to find again that spaciousness, to remember what you already know, which is, oh yeah, these are thoughts. These are not me. I actually don't even have much control over these. What I do have control is how I respond. I do have the power to put them down. Another change that I can really feel so clearly in myself is, whereas before I might have gone hours, days, being quite disconnected from my body, being unconscious or being on autopilot, so that all of this stuff is running through my mind and my body without me really having the awareness, but it's still causing me physiological stress, causing me mental, emotional stress. Now that I have a really solid connection to what I sometimes call my inner compass, or this practice of embodied awareness, I notice so much earlier when I am dysregulated. And I can say, oh, okay, here we are. We're feeling a little bit dysregulated. Okay, what can we do? What do I need in this moment? And as simple as that sounds, it is so empowering and liberating. Some simple adjustments, breath, posture, kindness, and the difference that that makes to quality of life is immeasurable. Also, side note, just as this habit of checking in and being less judgmental, and instead of judging myself or being critical about myself, asking what do I need in this moment, it works that as that habit grows in me, I notice that habit grows in how I interact with others. So whereas previously I might be very judgmental and critical to others, and I still am, I can quickly catch myself and I can say, okay, what does this other person need in this moment? You know, how are their needs not being met? And so it's just like, again, disarming all around, less war all around. So much more peaceful and so much more loving. Okay, I think it's a good time to wrap the video. Still not as short as I would have wanted, but hopefully I can edit this video down to a reasonably short, relatively short duration. And yeah, here I am taking up space on my own channel. And yeah, hopefully this added more of a personal perspective to really illustrate not only the benefits that I've experienced, but also the appreciation that I have for my own practice and the practice that has been passed down to me by teachers that have preserved it, who have cherished it, and who've loved it enough to share. And that's all I want to do here too. I love these practices so much. I cherish the benefits of these practices so much that I just naturally want to share. So again, this isn't about, oh, look how good I am now, although I'm sure there's a little girl inside of me that wants to be recognized and wants a gold star for all of that too. But really, it's about sharing the possibility. Sometimes it's hard for us to really notice and appreciate the progress we've made after years of practice. Sometimes you can kind of question, you know, is the practice working? Is it all worth it? And I know for myself, it's really helpful to look back, maybe just 1 year ago, 5 years ago, more. Not how have you changed in the sense of how are you different really, but how would you have responded to something differently before compared to now? And really notice any small progress and really praise any bit of progress that you notice. That can give us fuel to keep going in our practice. And this really is the most worthy pursuit that I have found in this life. I hope this serves as companionship on your path. And I'm here with you, and thank you for choosing to be here with me too. And yeah, I love you and I mean it. And I'll see you next time.